My entire body was a canvas of angry, red blossoms. They bloomed across my chest, down my stomach, and even crept up my neck, little congested spots that stung with a faint, unfamiliar scent when I dared to touch them. My lips were swollen, tender to the touch, and a deep, pinching ache radiated from both sides of my waist. Every slight shift of my legs sent a jolt of pain through my muscles. I stood frozen in front of the bathroom mirror, a dizzying wave of nausea and confusion washing over me. What in God's name happened last night? I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to pierce through the thick fog of a hangover. The hot springs Euros, the winter Euros, the rain Euros. I remember running outside, deliriously happy, to feel the cool drops on my face. Then, feeling tired, I stumbled back to my room. The keycard wooden Euros trade tea work. I remember pounding on the door, a frantic, drunken rhythm. A hand opened it. A strong arm pulled me inside. And Thina Euros a kiss. It wasn't gentle. It was a collision. I Euros trade D wrapped my arms around his neck, pressing my lips to his. He resisted at first, a stiff wall against my clumsy advances. But as my desperation grew, something shifted. He took control, his hand tangled in the back of my hair, tilting my head back as he demanded more, his kiss turning fierce, possessive. I let out a weak whimper, a protest lost in the storm of it all, but he refused to let me go. The memory blazed, hot and embarrassing, my face flushing in the present as I recalled the sheer intensity. My minder Euros trade as I traveled upwards, past the strong column of his throat, past his sharp jawline, about to see his face, to finally know Euros and then nothing. A complete blackout. I slammed my palm against my forehead in frustration. Who was it? Who did I kiss? Who kissed me back with such terrifying passion? The only other fragment I could grasp was a question, whispered against my lips in the darkness. Are you sure you like me the most? 3 faces swam in my mind, 3 potential culprits, and I had absolutely no idea which one had left their mark on me. It had been 18 long years since I found myself inexplicably thrust into the world of this Boyer Euros trade love novel. 18 years of living a quiet, unassuming life, waiting for the inevitable moment the plot would finally kick into gear. And today was that day. I stood before the dormitory door, luggage in hand, my heart a frantic drum against my ribs. Pushing it open, I was met with a scene straight from the Booker Euros trade illustrations. 3 young men, each handsome in a distinctly different way, turned to look at me. First, there was Theodore. The towering 1.9 meters, he was a sports student built like a Greek god, all broad shoulders and powerful limbs. His energy was wild, untamed, radiating a raw intensity that made you think of tangled sheets and breathless nights. He was, according to the original script, the story Euros trade's primary male lead, the one destined to win the protagonist Euros trade's heart. Then there was Henry, the academic genius of the group, just a hair shorter than Theodore. He wore gold-rimmed glasses that did little to hide the piercing intelligence in his eyes. He possessed an air of cold abstinence, a perfect, untouchable facade that was, in its own way, utterly magnetic. He was the tragic second male lead, the one whose love would go unrequited. And finally, Matteo, the story Euros trade's central protagonist, the beautiful, melancholic artist. With his longish hair and a perpetual sadness in his eyes, he was the kind of beautiful that made you ache. One look at him, and you felt an overwhelming urge to smooth away the worry lines creasing his brow and promise him a world of happiness. And me, I was Noor, the 4th roommate. The nameless, faceless cannon fodder extra whose only purpose was to exist in the background and occasionally move the plot forward for the main couple. My grip on my luggage tightened. This was going to be a minefield. Rule number 1 for background character: stay invisible. I offered a quick, nervous hello, "My name is Noah," before scurrying past them. I unpacked with lightning speed, threw my things into my closet, and scrambled onto the top bunk, pulling the privacy curtain shut so fast it was a blur of fabric. I was a ghost, an observer. My job was to witness their epic love story, not participate in it. When they were sweet and tender, I would look away. When they fought with passionate jealousy, I would pretend to be deaf. I was the living embodiment of minding my own business. My resolve was tested a few days later. It was a lazy weekend afternoon, and I was blissfully demolishing a slice of watermelon when Theodore, the walking personification of a rich second-generation heir, brandished a set of tickets to an exclusive hot spring resort. His eyes slid over to Matteo, a casual invitation hanging in the air. I saw it instantly. This was a plot point, an opportunity for the main couple to bond. But Matteo, true to his hesitant nature, seemed uninterested. Henry didn't even look up from his book, a wall of pure indifference. This was my moment to shine, in the most self-effacing way possible. The second rule for a cannon fodder character: facilitate the main couple's trade's emotional progress. I dropped my watermelon rind with a soft clatter and cautiously raised my hand. I'll go. Theodore's trade's face broke into a wide, approving grin. He strode over and ruffled my hair, his large hand surprisingly gentle yet firm. "Taboy, Noah. You're the only one with any spirit around here." His fingers raked through my hair, a playful gesture that suddenly sent a bolt of pure electricity through my body as his knuckles brushed against the shell of my ear. I flinched violently, a small, involuntary gasp escaping my lips. The dorm room fell silent. 3 pairs of eyes were suddenly fixed on me. "I'm ticklish," I stammered, my face burning a shade of crimson. I didn't know was possible. On my ears. I'm not a pervert, I swear. Theodore's hand paused, his fingers unconsciously rubbing the spot for a second longer before he pulled back, a faint blush dusting his own cheeks. "Really?" He cleared his throat and turned his attention back to the others. "So Henry, Matteo, you guys coming? We're gonna be living together for 4 years, might as well get along." He leaned against the bed frame, arms crossed, a lazy smile on his lips. But his eyes, I noticed, kept flicking back to me. I offered a weak, shaky smile in return and then turned my gaze to the other 2. Henry's stare was intense, like being pinned by a hawk. It felt like I was back in high school, facing down the dean of discipline. But Matteo was different. His long, dark hair was tied back, revealing the elegant line of his neck. He was just so breathtakingly beautiful. I had a weakness for beautiful things. Gathering my courage, I slid closer to his bunk and tugged on his sleeve. "Third brother," I cooed, using a familiar term of address, "you should come. I can even scrub your back for you." The image of Matteo, shirtless in the steaming water, his muscles slick and defined, flashed through my mind. My face, which had just begun to cool down, instantly reignited, becoming as red as a ripe apple. It was a shameless, embarrassing thought, but I couldn't help it. Matteo looked down at me. A slow smile spread across his perfect lips, and the world seemed to dim around him. He reached out a slender, pale hand and gently pinched the dimple on my cheek. Okay. The trip to the hot spring club was a blur of excited energy, at least for me. In my previous life, I was an orphan. Survival was a full-time job. Luxuries like this were things I only read about in books. Now, here I was. Theodore threw a casual arm around my shoulders, pulling me into his side. "Look at you," he teased, his voice a low rumble beside my ear. "Are you a kindergartner on a field trip?" I just blushed and didn't argue. Across from us, I saw Matteo's gaze linger on Theodore Eurostrade's arm wrapped around me for a few seconds before he looked away, his expression unreadable. Henry, as usual, remained a stoic, silent presence. The feeling of sinking into the hot, mineral-rich water was pure bliss. I closed my eyes, letting the heat seep into my bones, and declared it the best form of exercise known to man. I was alone for a few minutes, soaking in my corner, when the door slid open, and then they entered. My eyes widened. I expected Theodore to be ripped. He was. His body was a masterpiece of athletic discipline. I also expected Henry, as the more slender academic type, to be less defined. I was wrong. He was lean, yes, but there was a quiet power in his build, a swimmer Eurostrade's grace. But the real shock was Matteo, the gentle, melancholic artist, the designated receiver in this story, had perfectly sculpted pectoral muscles and a defined six-pack. I instinctively glanced down at my own pale, soft torso submerged beneath the water. A small, gloomy rain cloud materialized over my head. It seemed this was a world designed exclusively for me to feel inadequate. I tried to make myself smaller, sinking deeper into my corner, hoping to dissolve into the steam. Suddenly, a scorching hot body pressed against my back. Before I could even yelp, strong arms hooked under my own, and I was unceremoniously lifted and tossed into the center of the pool. I came up sputtering, water streaming from my hair and eyes, a drowned rat with a score to settle. "Theodore, you bastard!" I howled, charging toward him, ready to fight. He just stood there, laughing, that deep, booming laugh that filled the entire space. But my path of vengeance was intercepted. Henry Eurostrade's hand shot out, grabbing my arm. My momentum carried me forward, and I crashed directly into his chest. My hands splayed against his hard, wet abdomen, and I looked up into his face. Without his glasses, his features were sharper, more intense. Water droplets clung to his long eyelashes, dripping slowly down his cheeks. "Be quiet," he said, his voice low but firm. "The walls aren't soundproof." His authority was absolute. I immediately wilted. Even the typically arrogant Theodore shot him a glare but quieted down. I retreated to the side of the pool, grabbing a towel to wipe my face. A moment later, Matteo sat down beside me. "Third brother," I greeted him, my voice soft and obedient. Up close, his beauty was almost overwhelming. His damp hair framed a face that seemed carved from marble. Under a high-bridged nose, his lips were a startling shade of red, made even more vivid by the steam. His eyelashes were so long, so thick, I found myself thinking they could probably catch snowflakes in the winter. He must have felt my stare, because he turned his head, his face already flushed from the heat, and a faint smile touched his lips. "Am I that good-looking?" My face burned. I nodded dumbly. Then, in a clumsy attempt to recover, I blurted out, "But I definitely don't have any Euros feelings for you. I mean, how could I? Those two," I gestured vaguely towards Theodore and Henry, "are practically breathing down your neck." His smile vanished. His face grew cold and he turned away without another word. It seemed I had somehow, inexplicably, made him angry. Later, as we walked back towards our rooms, the wine I Eurostrade D had in the hot spring began to fully take hold. The world was tilting on its axis in a way that I found immensely entertaining. My steps were unsteady, and a giddy, irrepressible excitement bubbled up inside me. "Hey, Noah, you okay to be alone?" Theodore Eurostrade's arm was back on my shoulder, his voice laced with genuine concern. "You can stay with me tonight. I'll look after you." I tried to push him away, a silly grin plastered on my face. "I'm fine, not drunk at all. See? To prove my point, I attempted a pirouette. It was a catastrophic failure. I lost my balance and pitched forward, landing face first in Henry's arms. He caught me effortlessly, one hand clamping around my waist to steady me. Our eyes met for a startlingly intense moment. "I'll take him back," Mater Eurostrade's voice cut in. He reached out and pulled me away from Henry, using a bit more force than necessary. The sudden movement sent the hallway spinning in a delightful kaleidoscope of colors. He supported my weight as we stumbled toward my room. Leaning in close, I whispered conspiratorially into his ear, thinking my voice was barely audible. "Third brother, you're the best looking, by far. Don't let Theodore and Henry know, but I like you the most." Beside us, Theodore Eurostrade's expression soured, and Henry watched us with a thoughtful, unreadable look. Mater Eurostrade's long eyelashes fluttered. He leaned in and whispered back, his breath warm against my ear. "Third brother likes you too." A fresh wave of silly giggles escaped me. He helped me into my room, laid me down on the bed, and flicked on the small night light. Then, all three of them left. I lay there for a while, the room spinning gently, until I noticed the rain starting outside the window. A sudden jolt of energy shot through me. I had to see it. I scrambled out of bed and ran outside, standing on the balcony for who knows how long, just watching the storm. Eventually, the exhaustion hit me like a physical blow, and I stumbled back to my room, which brings us to this morning. The mystery, the marks, the missing pieces of the night. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my racing heart, and opened the bathroom door. The first person I saw was Matteo. He was wearing a loose bathrobe, tied carelessly at the waist. His collarbone was exposed, and his fair skin was littered with spots. Spots that looked unnervingly similar to my own. They looked like red plums scattered across freshly fallen snow. Euros decadent and pure all at once. His lips, too, were swollen. My blood ran cold, then hot. Could it have been him? Third brother, I stammered, my eyes darting away, unable to meet his gaze. He took a step closer, pushing his dripping bangs off his forehead with a fluid grace. The move transformed him, the melancholic beauty suddenly replaced by a hint of sharp aggression. "Why won't you look at me?" he murmured, his voice a low tease. "What are Euros? What happened to you?" I asked, a desperate glimmer of hope in my voice. He sized me up, a slow, deliberate appraisal, before biting his swollen lip. "I've never had a professional body scrub before," he said, a note of distress in his tone. I decided to try it. The masseur was a bit too rough, I think. He injured me. My eyes widened. I lunged at him, grabbing the lapels of his robe. "Be careful," he said, frowning as he steadied me. I pulled the collar open, peering at the marks on his chest. They were red, yes, but they looked more like abrasions, chafe marks. They didn't look like what I had. It seemed the masseur's skills really were subpar. I forced a laugh, trying to cover my embarrassment. It seemed the culprit wasn't Mateo. "What are you two doing?" Theodore Eurostrade's voice boomed from behind us. I spun around. He was wearing nothing but a pair of shorts, his magnificent upper body on full display, and it was covered in small red dots. I froze. It couldn't be. "What happened to you?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Did you get a body scrub too?" The memory of the fierce, possessive kiss from last night flooded my mind. Theodore was fierce. It fit. Oh God, it was him, wasn't it? Body scrub? What are you talking about? He scratched his side irritably, looking at me with a pitiful expression. "Fourth, help me out. I forgot to close the window last night. The mosquitoes had a feast." He shoved a small bottle of lotion into my hand. My mind was a chaotic mess. Was it possible? I uncapped the bottle and poured some of the liquid onto my palm, robotically applying it to his back. "Why does this feel Euros even itchier?" he grumbled after a few moments. "And kind of hot. This stuff Henry gave me Euros, is it expired?" A sudden, soft laugh came from beside me. I turned to see Mateo leaning against the doorframe, bathed in the morning light from the hallway window. His eyelashes fluttered, and a brilliant smile lit up his eyes as he looked at me. For a second, it felt like I was being blessed by an angel. I heard the distinct sound of myself gulping. Mateo took the bottle from my hand, holding it up for me to see. "Using safflower oil for mosquito bites," he said, shaking his head with amusement. "You two are really something else." My face erupted in flames. I was so consumed with my panic about who Eurostrade kissed that I hadn't even noticed the color or smell of the potion was wrong. No wonder it burned. Theodore looked from the bottle to my face, his eyebrows arching. "Okay, I get me not noticing. But you," he pointed at me, "why didn't you notice? Were you doing it on purpose?" Euros, I was just Euros. I couldn't possibly tell him the truth. "Sorry, I was too busy having a mental breakdown about potentially sleeping with you or one of our other two roommates to pay attention. I'm hungry," I blurted out. "Yeah, I was so hungry I got distracted." Theodore burst out laughing and ruffled my hair again, hard. Seeing my ears turn red, he started to reach for them, a mischievous glint in his eye. But before his fingers could make contact, Mateo Eurostrade's hand shot out, blocking his path. The two of them locked eyes. Theodore's playful demeanor vanished, replaced by a sharp intensity. Mateo Eurostrade's smile was gone, and his hand remained, a silent challenge in the space between them. Sparks seemed to crackle in the air. Was Theser Euros the beginning of the love triangle? Just then, a hand landed on my shoulder. I looked up to see Henry's strong jawline. He steered me away from the standoff and toward the restaurant. I was surprised but didn't resist, my mind racing as I secretly tried to size him up. Was he the one? "Henry." Theodore's irritated voice followed us. "Why'd you give me safflower oil instead of mosquito repellent?" Henry didn't break stride, his expression placid. I must have grabbed the wrong one. His voice was calm, but I could have sworn there was a subtle undercurrent I couldn't quite place. At the restaurant, breakfast was already laid out. I ate absently, my eyes glued to the collar of Henry's shirt. He was my only remaining suspect, but his abstinent god title was well earned. The white shirt was buttoned all the way to the top, not a hint of skin visible. How was I supposed to confirm anything? As I chewed on a bun, staring at him, a plan, however insane, began to form in my mind. How could I get him to take his shirt off? Suddenly, a slender fingertip waved in front of my face. It was Mateo. He frowned, that beautiful melancholy look back in place, and pulled his own collar open. "Noah," he said, his voice laced with a pained vulnerability, "the wound hurts a bit." I looked at the angry red marks, chafed raw by the fabric. I reached out, wanting to soothe the skin, but afraid of hurting him. He lowered his eyelashes, looking so pitiful, a single perfect tear glistening at the corner of his eye, threatening to fall. My heart did a painful flip. "It's okay, third brother," I said, my voice thick with sympathy. "I'll help you apply some medicine later." Theodore frowned, about to say something, but Mateo just nodded gratefully, that tear still trembling on his lash. And so, while Theodore and Henry went off to the billiards hall, I stayed behind to tend to Mateo. His room was pristine. As I walked toward the bed, my foot kicked something on the floor. I bent down and picked it up. It was a toothbrush, the bristles mashed completely flat. "Familiar?" Mateo asked, standing by the bed with his arms crossed, a playful look on his face. I stared at the ruined toothbrush, confused. "No. Should I throw it out for you?" I moved toward the trash can, but he caught my wrist, his grip surprisingly strong, and took the toothbrush from me. "I want to keep it," he said softly. "As a souvenir." "A souvenir? Of what?" Holding the ointment, I turned back to him and said, as naturally as I could, "Third brother, take off your clothes." The words hung in the air, suddenly feeling far too ambiguous. He just smiled gently, walked to the window to draw the curtains, and then knelt on the bed, his back to me. His slender fingers worked at the buttons of his shirt, and with a simple, fluid motion, he shrugged it off. The sight held a strange, fatal attraction, and I found myself staring. He sat on the bed bare-chested and looked up at me. "I'm afraid of pain," he whispered. "Can you be gentle, Noah?" My face was on fire. "I'll be gentle," I promised, my voice barely a squeak. My fingertips trembled as I applied the ointment to his skin. With every touch, he flinched slightly, his eyes wide and trusting, like a small, startled animal. A dark, intrusive thought wormed its way into my mind, the urge to push him down, to press him into the mattress and watch that look of trust shatter into shocked betrayal. "What are you daydreaming about?" His finger tapped my forehead, pulling me from my reverie. "I was asking if you want to watch a movie." I nodded, blushing. We sat on his bed, a movie playing on his laptop, but my eyes kept drifting to his perfect profile. Eventually, the warmth of the room and the low murmur of the film lulled me to sleep, my dreams filled with his handsome face. A sharp knocking on the door jolted me awake. I opened my eyes and found myself nose to nose with Mateo. We were so close I could feel the heat of his breath on my skin. He was still asleep, his red lips slightly parted. As I watched, they trembled like a butterfly testing its wings, and then his eyes slowly fluttered open. The realization of our position hit me like a ton of bricks. I scrambled backward, trying to create distance, but he moved faster. His hand shot out, grabbing my shoulder, while the other cradled the back of my neck, and he pressed me back down onto the pillow. "Our third brother Euros," his eyes were hazy with sleep. "Kiss me, wife," he murmured, and then his mouth was on mine. My mind went blank. It was a forceful, dominant kiss, his softness invading my mouth, leaving no room for thought or protest. I let out a muffled groan and tried to push him away, but he captured my hands, pinning them above my head. By the time he finally released me, the person at the door was pounding loud enough to tear it from its hinges. Mateo lay on top of me, shirt wrinkled, his body a beautiful, disheveled masterpiece. He held my wrists, blinking as if just waking up. "Oh," he said casually, letting go of my hands and rolling off me. "It's just Noah." I was still half asleep. He got up to open the door, leaving me sitting on the bed, utterly shell-shocked. "Wife?" Mateo, the main bottom character, has a wife, and he mistook me for her. That incident haunted me for days. I actively avoided him, my mind a whirlwind of confusion. Then, one afternoon, Theodore cornered me in our dorm. "Fourth," he began, his tone serious, "have you and the third one been fighting?" At the mention of Mateo Eurostrade's name, I blushed instinctively. I turned to deny it, but Theodore had moved too close, too fast. He was shirtless again, and he took another step forward, trapping me between his body and the wardrobe. "Theodore, you're a bit too close," I squeaked. He braced his arms on either side of my head, his voice low and angry. "Last time, when I knocked on your door to call you for dinner, your lips were swollen. Did you two kiss?" Panic seized me. Oh no. The main top character found out I kissed his future wife. He was going to kill me. I looked at his furious face, my heart hammering against my ribs. He leaned in, his imposing face filling my vision. I squeezed my eyes shut, bracing for the blow, praying he wouldn't hit me too hard. "Theodore, what are you doing?" Henry's cold, crisp voice cut through the tension. I let out a shaky breath and slowly opened my eyes. Theodore was inches from my face, his lips almost touching my cheek. He wasn't going to hit me. Why was he so close? Was he going to bite me? The thought was so absurd it was terrifying. The jealousy had driven him completely mad. Henry grabbed my wrist and pulled me out from between Theodore and the wardrobe. "If you like someone," Henry said, his voice sharp, "pursue them properly. Methods like this will only push them away." I nodded vigorously from behind Henry's back. "Exactly. If you like Mateo, go after him. Stop persecuting me, the innocent cannon fodder. Do you understand?" Theodore snarled, but his words weren't directed at me. They were for Henry. "From the day we were born, you've always gotten everything. Everyone I've ever liked has always liked you more. No matter what I do, you're the one who gets the praise. And now we Eurostrade even in the same damn dorm. Not everyone has it as easy as you, Henry." He shot me one last deep look, grabbed a coat, and slammed the door behind him. "Were you scared?" Henry asked, turning to me. I shook my head, my curiosity overriding my fear. "You and Theodore you grew up together." He nodded, a nostalgic smile softening his features. "In the same compound. He's never liked me." "Well," I ventured, "if someone was better than me at everything my whole life, I probably wouldn't like them either." Theodore doesn't seem like the type to care about grades and stuff. "Maybe you should try talking to him, comforting him." Henry Eurostrade's hand rested on my head, gently ruffling my hair. "Thank you, Noah," he said, his voice surprisingly soft. I thought it was sweet how much he cared about their friendship. Oh, how naive I was. There was no friendship. Not in the way I thought. A few days later, I stayed up all night playing games. With no classes the next day, I slept straight through until noon. I woke up to a weight on my chest. I blinked my eyes open and found Mateo straddling me, his hands propped on either side of my head, staring intently at my face. "Third brother, what are you doing?" My voice cracked in alarm. I struggled, but he held me down easily. He pinched my cheek, his voice sharp. "Have you been avoiding me?" "No, of course not." "Then why does Theodore bring you food every day?" Because he finally realized he misunderstood our relationship and feels guilty. I thought, but couldn't say. HMPH. Avoiding me to be good brothers with Theodore. Do you like him? When he said that, his expression turned fierce. We were locked in a tense standoff when the dorm door swung open, and the voices of Henry and Theodore filled the room. They were arguing. Mateo frowned and reached for the curtain, but I slapped my hand over his mouth. If they saw us like this, I was a dead man. He hesitated, and in that moment, we were trapped. Who I like is none of your business. Theodore's sarcastic voice drifted through the curtain. Everyone knows you're the untouchable academic god, Henry. What does my business have to do with you? I held my breath, listening intently. Noah doesn't like you, Henry stated calmly. Wait, not Mateo doesn't like you. Noah, me. Why was my name in his mouth? Mateo Eurostrade's hand pinched my waist hard. It itched, but I didn't dare move. Whether he likes me or not is my business, Theodore retorted. As long as I like him. My eyes went wide. On my chest, Mateo pinched me again, harder this time, right through my shirt. I gasped in pain, and he immediately clamped his hand back over my mouth. A scuffle sounded from outside the curtain. I thought they were finally going to fight. But then, in the silent room, there was a wet, unmistakable sound of lips meeting teeth. Henry Eurostrade's usually cold voice was thick with a lust so potent it was almost tangible. Now he growled, "It has everything to do with me." "Henry, you're insane. Are you trying to disgust me?" "Yes, I am insane. I like you. Seeing you like someone else, I've been crazy for a long time." Another series of desperate, messy kissing sounds followed, mixed with Theodore Eurostrade's muffled struggles. Theodore, the powerful sports student, was being overpowered by the slender, academic Henry. My mind was reeling. This wasn't Eurostrade in the book. None of this was in the book. As I was processing this universe-altering revelation, Mateo leaned close to my ear, his breath a hot caress. "Exciting, isn't it? No. How about we make it even more exciting?" His teeth grazed my earlobe, and a shiver racked my entire body. Then he kissed me, hard. Outside the curtain, Henry was forcefully kissing Theodore. Inside the curtain, Mateo was overpowering me, my silent whimpers swallowed by his mouth. The corners of my eyes were wet with tears, but he wouldn't let me go. By the time he finally pulled away, my lips were numb and sore, and the dorm was completely silent. Theodore and Henry were gone. His slender fingers traced my swollen lips, his expression one of a predator who had just enjoyed his meal. The melancholy artist was gone, replaced by someone I didn't recognize at all. After a long, tense silence, I asked him, my voice trembling, "Don't you are Euros like Theodore? Where did you hear such a ridiculous rumor?" He asked, a smile playing on his lips that was anything but kind. It seemed Mateo didn't like Theodore at all, and Theodore had just said he liked me, and Mateo had just kissed me senseless. But he was supposed to be the main bottom, and he had a wife he was mistaking me for. I wasn't just cannon fodder, I was a substitute cannon fodder. The next morning, I snuck off campus, my head a mess. I found a small breakfast shop and was looking for a seat when I saw Henry. He was staring into his kanji, completely zoned out. "Henry," I greeted him. He looked up, nodded, and gestured to the seat across from him. After a moment of shared, gloomy silence, he spoke. "Are you avoiding Mateo?" His question was so on the nose that it startled me. A sudden thought occurred to me. "Don't tell me," I whispered. You're avoiding Theodore. The flicker of pain in his eyes was all the confirmation I needed. My brother in arms. It seemed we were in the same sinking boat. He sighed, the top student persona falling away for the first time. He really likes you, Henry said, his voice flat. I waved my hands frantically. I don't like Theodore. I lick your euros. I like third brother. My voice faltered on the last words. Buter euros, third brother doesn't like me. He likes someone else. Henry's expression shifted. He pushed his glasses up his nose, and a dangerous glint appeared in his eyes. How about we cooperate? He proposed. I'll help you provoke Matteo. If he sees you have a boyfriend, Theodore is loyal enough not to pursue his brother's partner. It gives me an opening, and it tests Matteo's feelings for you. My eyes lit up. How? A faint, chilling smile touched the corners of his lips. You just watch. Outside, the sky suddenly darkened and a cold wind rattled the windows. I felt a shiver run down my spine. Poor Theodore. He had no idea what was coming. The following week was a massed class in psychological warfare orchestrated by Henry. He was relentlessly publicly gentle and considerate to me. He euros trade D lift me down from the top bunk like I was a precious doll. He euros trade D rub my head and remind me to bring an umbrella. All of this was performed in front of Theodore, whose face grew darker with each passing day, and Matteo, who watched me from his bunk with an unnervingly possessive gaze. Does Noah want third brother to pick you up after class? Or Henry? Matteo asked one day, his voice deceptively sweet, but his smile was pure poison. I wanted to say his name, but one look at Henry Eurostrade's cool, expectant expression made me falter. Henry is fine. Henry beamed, rubbing my head again, while the other two looked like they were ready to commit murder. After class, it was pouring. I stood under the eaves of the building, waiting for Henry, when a hand clamped around my wrist. I was yanked off my feet and dragged into an empty classroom, the door slamming shut behind us. I was spun around and pressed against the cold, hard blackboard. He stood before me, water dripping from his dark hair, his eyes burning with an emotion so intense it stole the air from my lungs. His beautiful face was twisted into a mask of raw jealousy and hurt. It was Matteo, and he looked absolutely furious. So, here I am, trapped in an empty classroom with a man I thought was a gentle artist but who is proving to be something far more dangerous. My fake relationship with Henry has clearly backfired, igniting a fire I have no idea how to put out. Theodore, the man who is supposedly in love with me, is nowhere to be seen, and the central mystery of who kissed me that night remains unsolved, though I Eurostrade am starting to have a terrifying suspicion. What a mess. I was supposed to be a background character, sipping tea and watching the drama unfold. Instead, I Eurostrade V become the drama. So, what do you think? Who do you think really left those marks on me that night? Was it a drunken mistake, or did one of them seize the opportunity their Eurostrade D been waiting for? And in this chaotic, four-way disaster, who are you even rooting for anymore? Let me know your wildest theories in the comments below. If you're as hooked on this train wreck as I am, don't forget to hit that like button. And please subscribe so you don't miss whatever happens next. Trust me, I have a feeling Eurostrade's only going to get crazier from here.